Hey, this is Troy from Planet 76. We've got some really good Sixers-focused content coming your way today. Make sure you subscribe to the pod so you can be in the know when we release new content. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 106 of 105?
Yes.
I thought this was 106 of Planet 76. My name is Michael. Troy is here as usual. Troy and I were actually just discussing how slow of an off season this has been. Unprecedented in terms of slowness, activity-wise, or I guess you could say lack thereof when it comes to just, obviously the Sixers, but we've talked about that in great length at this point, but the NBA in general, it's just super slow, but we're going to make the most of it. Make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. We're everywhere. So if you don't follow at this point, that's on you. If you listen to the podcast and you watch the podcast, you're not following us on anything, that's on you. So drop us a follow. Troy, what are we getting ourselves into this evening?
What are we getting into? So, recording Thursday the 14th of September, and I just double-checked. So, Sixers tip off the season in Milwaukee in exactly 6 weeks.
Wow.
42 days from now. So we are slowly but surely getting there, my friend. Things will get started to get going here soon with training camp, preseason, all of that. But today's episode, we're just going to hit on a little bit of Sixers news recently, and then just kind of give our thoughts on Nick Nurse, because that seems to be.
Nice.
There's not a whole lot different with this team this year. There's a couple new pieces brought in off the bench, and then, we have no idea what's going to happen with James Harden, obviously. But Nick Nurse is really the new piece. He's the exciting piece. I saw an article today. Someone put a poll out there about what are Sixers fans most excited for in this coming season. The options were Nick Nurse. The second option was nothing, which got 33% of the vote. The third option was Tyrese Maxey and his development, and then fourthly, how Joel Embiid plays after the MVP. The leading percentage, just beating nothing, was Nick Nurse at 34% as far as what people are excited for.
Leave it to Sixers fans. I get it. There's not a whole lot to be excited about. But I'm already seeing people like, I'm not going to watch this team. I'm not going to watch any games this year. I'm just going to get all upset and just... You know you're watching the Sixers this year. Don't lie for the sake of trying to be different. We all know that no matter what anyone says, they're going to be watching the Sixers this year. And they're going to enjoy the games, because if you don't, you're not really that big of a Sixers fan, in my opinion, at that point, because you watch the games. You don't have to love the product, but you watch the games. We all watched during the 10 and 72 season. Nothing is worse than that. So I think you can watch the Sixers, because they're still going to be a good team this year. They're still going to be good. They're not going to be trash. This is not a lottery team by any means. This is still going to be a good team.
Exactly. And one of the exciting pieces of that is the new head coach in Nick Nurse. And so we spent time, whenever he was brought in to be the next head coach, doing a little bit of a deep dive. But today we're going to dig a little deeper, because we know basically what the team's going to look like going out there in 42 days. And Nick Nurse has to lead that team. What we've got is what we got. And just to give our thoughts on what he can do to help us win, what we might be worried about with him. Wherever we want to go. But first, Sixers did bring in a former friend back to the team. Danny Green signs a 1-year deal. Okay. And so Danny Green played 2 years with the Sixers, and then suffered a torn ACL and LCL in the playoffs, that elimination game in 2022 against Miami. And then on his road to recovery, obviously, I mean, it took a long time to recover. He got injured at the end of the season. So he played in just 11 games last year, 3 with Memphis and then 8 with the Cavaliers. I don't even really remember exactly when in the season that was, obviously toward the end because he was coming off an injury. But what's your thoughts on the move? Danny Green now, what, 35 years old, 36 years old? What's your thoughts on this move?
I definitely listen. It's not a game changer by any means, but Danny Green is still a good NBA player. However, what I am more so concerned with, in the sense of being interested and not concerned, like worried or upset, is that he's getting kind of a chance at redemption, because he was injured. He got injured, probably the worst injury in pro sports.
Yep.
And then he got traded for a good cause, obviously. But he's going to get a chance to come back and, listen, Danny Green was good with the Sixers when he was here. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hear anything about that because we've talked about it in length, I'm sure, at some point. I mean, yeah, right. He was, yeah. We definitely had our fair share of discussions about Danny Green. I don't want to hear, well, he's trash. Why are we getting excited about this? Listen, he's a good NBA player. I don't care if I don't care. I care about nothing except for him being back on the team, and he's not going to necessarily be a 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th man off the bench, but he's still going to get his time, and he's going to contribute, in my opinion. I like it. I think there's a line that people cross often between being okay with something and then nitpicking. Like, people are crossing the line of it turning into nitpicking because he's old. Or because, there's no other reason outside of the fact that he's old and injured. Right. This is fine. This is fine. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good vet to have. He was a good vet to have when he was here for those 2 years, and I just checked. He shot over 40% from 3 1 year, just over 40, and then 38% the second year, and he can still shoot the ball. You don't lose that. Yes. But his role will look a little different. Leadership-wise, it'll be the same, but maybe playing time, and he was a starter for most of his time here. Don't necessarily see that, like you mentioned, but, because of the injury and because of the age and how hard it is to recover from an injury like that. But he still has a place on the team. I like it, And, I mean, I know it's an incredibly small sample size, and I didn't plan on reading this stat, but I feel like I need to. So in his 8 games with Cleveland, he was shooting 45% from 3 on 3.5 attempts a game. So incredibly small sample size, but the kid was knocking him down. Mm-hmm. And, on 30 attempts with the team, he made 45% of them. So pretty interesting note there. So Danny Green back with the Sixers. And, again, Nick Nurse. That's going to be our focus the rest of the way. So he brings excitement to an otherwise boring off season outside of the whole James Harden situation. A guy with some creativity, doesn't mind taking risks. We talked about that on a previous episode. Just to give you an idea of his teams in recent memory. So he became the head coach in 18-19 with the Toronto Raptors, and in those seasons the team's defensive efficiency was 4th in 18-19. 19-20, they were 2nd in the league in defense, and then 11th in each of the last 3 seasons. Offensively, they were 7th in 18-19, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 13th the last few years. So pretty middle of the pack offensively, but a lot of that due to the team that they had. Mm-hmm. A couple, pretty good players, obviously, and they had some good teams. They won a championship in there. Let's not forget that. And as the Sixers are currently constructed, so then we do have a couple questions that some people submitted, and then I just have a couple questions thrown in there too for you. But as the Sixers are currently constructed, what's your expectation like for the rotation, your expectation for someone's going to have a bigger role. You know, Tyrese Maxey's going to have a bigger role doing this or that. Like, what's a couple predictions that you have that you think are going to happen just based on how this team's currently constructed?
Sixers go 82 now. No, I'm just kidding. I think I don't know. This is a kind of scenario where I don't know that there's much we can really predict. I don't really know that there's much we can expect either. I don't think there's actually anything we should be expecting from this team this season. But I don't know that there's much we can even predict really, because there still is a lot of uncertainty with obviously Harden, and I'm not going to talk much about that. But with the roster, I mean, we don't really. The roster is we're seeing a lot of the same players, but we also have some new players. You know, we have some Obama, we have Patrick Beverley, we have Danny Greenback, we have what other players are they signing? I don't even know.
I mean, those are the big ones right there.
There still is a little bit of questioning to be done, and I think at this point, and we'll get in, you know, once we get closer to the season, and we'll get more into that. But I think if you look, I think there's still some things to look forward to / be, I don't know if I want to say hopeful about, but I will say cautiously optimistic. That's what we'll title this episode. Cautiously optimistic about the Sixers. I think that's good.
All right.
I think that's good.
Good title.
I think that's good.
I love that. I'll give you one, I guess, hopeful, cautiously optimistic expectation that I have for the Sixers, and particularly with Nick Nurse, is I expect after games to not be forced to say this as much. I don't think I'm going to be saying, well, the Sixers were outcoached tonight as much as I have been under Doc Rivers.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I expect to be pretty confident night in, night out about my head coach. And now again,
wait, being confident about a head coach? No. this not possible.
That's different.
Not possible.
That's different. So, that's my thing, I think. And then, you know, excited. And I think, you know, you've posted about it on Trust the Love that maybe Joel Embiid unlocks just a different, or Nick Nurse helps unlock a different Joel Embiid even on the defensive end. You posted recently about DeAnthony Melton and some expectations for him to take another step with this team, and he's more than capable of even upping his game into a bigger role. So those are just some expectations I have. But I think the one big one is just I'm confident in the coach we have, and I hope he doesn't let me down. Right? I mean, we don't really know until he gets out there. He hasn't coached a game yet with the team. But I feel good about it, and that's a good thing. So we'll get into some questions. First one submitted by a friend of the podcast, William Reisbeck.
Let's go.
He wants to know, so questions focused on Nick Nurse. With James Harden's absence, does Nick Nurse, or do we see Nick Nurse thinking that Maxey's going to become more of a facilitator on this team? What's your thoughts there?
I think he's gonna have to be. I think Tyrese.
Yeah.
I think even if Harden stays, that's the next step in Tyrese's development, whether it comes naturally or not. I know he's been working on it the past offseason or two. That's the next step in his development. That's the next step he's gonna have to take, is being able to not only put the ball on the floor, which he's been great at doing, but also find his teammates, create for his teammates, and make things happen for his teammates. That's something that he's going to have to learn how to do, because if he's going to continue to improve, that's the type of thing he's going to have to get better at. That's the thing he's going to have to continue adding to his game. And that's what's going to help him become more well-rounded, because obviously we know how great of a scorer he is, but if he can work on leveraging his ability to score into creating for his teammates, that's something that the elite offensive players can do consistently at a high level. And that's a gear that Maxey's going to have to reach in order for his game to reach where it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, I think that, we've seen Maxey improve every year.
Yeah.
We've seen him add different elements to his game, and the thought is that is the one he's worked on, this offseason, and it's going to be all the more important without James Harden. Like, it just is, and it's something he's going to have to work on. It'll be something that we're probably going to have to get used to, that he's going to have to get used to. It might, the hope too is that, game 1 and game 82, he's going to look like a completely different player, at least as far as facilitating. We don't expect him to come out game 1 and draw, have a James Harden 17 assist game. Right. But I think he can improve with it as the season goes on. I just hope that if he is the guy as far as playing point come playoff time, that he is comfortable and ready. And I'm okay with him making the progress to get there in real time action in the regular season. But yeah, it's important. I think Nick Nurse definitely sees that, and hopefully he'll help unlock that for Tyrese. All right. Next question is this. So, we touched on this too, but will Nick Nurse help unlock another level for Joel Embiid? I believe you think so, or have said that.
Yes.
Why do you? In what way? Defensively, just because he's defensive-minded? Like, tell us a little bit about your thoughts there.
Well, yeah, the Nick Nurse being able to... It all stems from the creativity aspect of his coaching game, which not many coach... And this is a big reason why I'd say he's probably a top 5 coach in the whole league. This is a big reason why, because good coaches... there's a difference between good and elite coaches. Nick Nurse is an elite coach, largely in part due to the fact that he's not afraid to make adjustments. He's not afraid to try things. Innovation. That's how you win this league. And he's been a huge part of winning with the Raptors a few years ago, but also, the Raptors were okay last year. That wasn't really his fault. They weren't that great, but that's besides the point. The great coaches, the elite coaches, they know how to adjust. They know how to adapt and evolve. And unfortunately for a dinosaur like Doc Rivers, it wasn't happening. But to really answer the question, Nick Nurse... there was a video that came out, I think it was from Patrick Beverley's podcast, and they were asking him about Joel Embiid. I forget what the exact question was. But Nick Nurse essentially said he's going to do everything. Joel Embiid's going to do everything. He's going to handle the ball more. He's going to bring the ball up the court. He's going to screen. He's going to roll. He's going to dive to the rim. He's going to pop. He's going to set back screens for his teammates and roll. Everything. So that in itself, Joel Embiid, yes, he's gotten to a point in his career where he can do a lot of things. But he can't do everything. And when Nick Nurse says Joel Embiid is going to do everything this offseason, I think that could really unlock something in Joel Embiid that we haven't seen yet. And obviously he's become such a great player. But there are still some things that he, 1, can't really do, and 2, can't really do well or well enough. So some of these things that I'm hearing that Nick Nurse is going to be having him do, very, very... I'm going to say it. I'm cautiously optimistic. I hear these things from a coach that I didn't hear from Brett Brown. I didn't hear from Doc Rivers. I hear these things from Nick Nurse, and I'm thinking, this could really move the needle in terms of what Joel Embiid looks like as a final product. End of season. Game 80. Playoffs. Whatever. This is huge.
Right.
Nick Nurse said he's going to have Embiid taking more... What was the word he used? Basically, defending the rim more. I forget what phrasing Nick Nurse used, but basically defending the rim more. He's going to take more chances at it or something, essentially describing Joel Embiid defending the rim more, taking more shots at, deterring players from going to the basket, deterring shots at the basket, keeping guys away from the basket, going for blocks, disrupting shots at the rim, things general defending the rim. That's something that I think Joel Embiid, that's one of his best attributes. We haven't seen it in the past few years because he had to do so much from a scoring, offensive load,
Mhm.
production standpoint. We haven't seen that nearly enough, and I think this year we could see it, which is huge because, like I just said, I think Joel Embiid is one of the best defenders in this game, and I think this is a really, really great chance for him to prove it, but as a byproduct, also have the Sixers be one of the better defensive teams in the league consistently, because last year they had their moments of being great defensively. But this year, I think if Joel Embiid is able to tap into that, it's huge. It's going to be huge. I think the team itself will look so much better if we can just get Joel Embiid to turn it up a little bit more defensively than he has. Even just a little bit more. Like, he's such a great defender that all it takes is just a little kick up for him, and we'll really be able to see how great he is defensively, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah. If he's more and more dialed in on that end of the floor, it's going to be key. It's there. We've seen it all throughout his career. It is there, but on a consistent night in, night out basis, which I think is what Nick Nurse is desiring, it could be pretty special. So that feeds really well into another quote from Nick Nurse. Speaking of things that we didn't expect to hear under former coaches, Nick Nurse had a quote on Paul Reed. This was also on Patrick Beverley's podcast, I believe. So he was asked about Paul Reed, and he said, quote, "Will he play with Embiid?" And Nick Nurse said, "For sure. Like, I don't think that's a question. He's going to be out there playing hard. He's going to be defending. Yeah. He's going to be doing probably more than he's done before, and I think he's ready to take a step up. He can play." Now, before you jump in on that one, cautiously optimistic because if we heard Doc Rivers say that, I think we would have been nervous because we've seen Doc with two bigs in a lineup, and it doesn't work. But obviously, Nick Nurse has confidence in whatever he's drawing up. He thinks it can work, and again, if that's a Doc Rivers quote, I'm pretty upset almost. I'm like, dude, stop. Right, it's not going to work. But with Nick Nurse, okay, maybe he's confident, but why is he confident? I don't know. Are you agree with me? Like, what's going on here? Because I didn't expect to hear that necessarily, especially a month and a half out from the season, and you're talking about it already.
It's funny because I just got done singing the praises of Nick Nurse, which that's not going to change or anything like that. But that still does kind of concern me. However, if there's a guy that can make it work, it's him. I just don't love the idea of two bigs playing alongside each other. Not that it gives me Al Horford vibes, but it definitely does raise a couple concerns because, one, Embiid's not a great shooter. Paul Reed is a non-shooter. When you have two bigs playing next to each other and neither of them is really a threat to shoot or score from behind the arc, it's kind of an issue for your spacing. And when Embiid is playing in the paint, which is where he probably more than where he should be, more often than not,
right.
Paul Reed also needs to play in the paint. So what's going to happen? Right. Paul Reed can't play in the corner or on the wing. He doesn't have a three-point shot. Now, he could play as kind of a just dive to the rim and hope somebody finds me, hope somebody feeds me the ball on my way down there kind of guy, which could work. I don't know. I don't love that. I think there's potential. Again, cautiously optimistic. There's some potential, but I don't love that.
Yeah. Again, if Doc said this, we're banging our head against the wall.
Yeah.
But because it's Nick Nurse and because he must have a plan, he's got something up his sleeve. Because he said I don't think that's a question. Like, they're gonna play together. He's got a plan, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of Toronto. Similar size, but very different play styles. From Pascal Siakam is kind of like Paul Reed, similar build ish, but because Siakam wasn't a 5, obviously, and he could handle the ball and he could shoot and score. But
Paul Reed can't really.
Paul Reed's he's 6'9" or whatever. He's I don't know. I don't know what the plan is. And you make a huge point, like huge question. The elephant in the room is, again, where the heck is Paul Reed going to be on offense if Joel Embiid's out there too?
Right.
Like he takes precedence in the paint inside the perimeter. Like unless Paul Reed's been shooting 3,000 jumpers a day, I don't know. But in Nick Nurse we trust. Like I mean, who knows? But I just find that quote very interesting. He's very confident, and he didn't say, "Yeah, no, we'll see. We'll try and make it work." He said it's going to happen. So
well, you know what? We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. All right. And then I guess we talked about what gives us confidence in Nick Nurse, heading into the season a little bit. Just, for me, I just said, he's a brilliant mind, and I think he's going to unlock some untapped potential that some of these Sixers that we've come to know and love over the years haven't reached yet because of some setbacks and limitations under the former coaching staff. And a new guy comes in, fresh eyes, maybe unlocks something. So I'm excited about that. What would you what questions are you looking forward to being answered specifically about Nick Nurse and what he's going to do with this team?
I'm looking forward. The Paul Reed and Embiid lineup is a question. It's definitely a question. I'm looking forward to having that answered. I would say, if there's one question, I would say, what would I want to see what he has in store for Maxey. I want to see. He's never really. I mean, the closest comp I can make is Fred VanVleet. Although I don't like the comp at all. He's never really had a guard like Maxey on his roster. I guess maybe Kyle Lowry kind of counts. So Kyle Lowry, but I'm very interested to see what he does with Maxey, and can he turn Maxey into more of a. He's a shooting guard. Maxey is a shooting guard. He might play point guard occasionally, but he's functionally a shooting guard. I want to see what kind of steps Maxey can take as a point guard in the modern NBA. That's one thing.
Okay. I'm looking at not as relevant as I thought it was going to be, but I looked up Fred VanVleet's assist numbers just in his career and how that changed. So, well, I guess it's relevant because the first year that Nick Nurse took over, that is where you saw Fred VanVleet's minutes spike. So he was there. He was at like 8 minutes his rookie year, 20 minutes his second year, and then he was up to 28 minutes, I guess, the first year under Nurse. And then, since then it's been 35, 36, 37 minutes a game. And those years he's been around 7 assists a game from what it was around 3 or 4. So not as relevant as I thought. But you see a guy who I mean, his career took off when Nick Nurse became the head coach. That is a fact. We do know that. I guess the question I have is how's he going to make this rotation work? We know what we have with Joel and Tobias and Tyrese and Melton. But, outside of those 4, there's some big questions on where everybody else fits into this puzzle. I guess P.J. Tucker, we know where he fits too. But, the bench, where's Mo Bamba fit into this? Where does Patrick Beverley fit into this? There are questions. Where's Danny Green going to fit into this? Where's Furkan Korkmaz going to fit into this?
Again.
Right. I'm done. Exactly. But, where do all these pieces to this puzzle fit? And so I'm curious. I'm not saying that, game 1 is going to be answered, and that's going to be the rotation for the rest of the year. But, I'm excited for the first week to see what he thinks is going to work best and how he's going to adapt and learn. You and I weren't jumping up and down when the Sixers signed Beverly and Mo Bamba, but what are they going to do for this team? Because to be honest, unless we're keeping Tyrese or Embiid on the floor at all times, what's a team going to look like with Patrick Beverley running the second unit and a bunch of other bench guys and P.J. Tucker and Tobias?
I hope Patrick Beverley doesn't run the second unit. That would be disastrous.
That would be. But is people are thinking DeAnthony's going to start, and I don't know, dude.
Wait, who would he start over?
I don't know. Who's going to start?
Maxey, Harden, Tucker, Harris, Embiid.
There's no
in
Harden.
A scenario
There's
where
no
Harden isn't here. Yeah, well, okay. Well, no one starts then. Yeah, he starts.
But the second unit's in trouble.
Yeah.
We've seen some bad Sixers second units, but a second unit where Patrick Beverly and Mo Bamba.
That's awkward.
And Danny Green off of ACL.
But Daniel House, though.
A little scary.
Listen, I like House. I'm just going to say I do.
You do?
I like him. I do. I'm just going to say it.
You do. I know. But but this isn't something we've already haven't talked about. We talked about this last episode. We said that as currently constructed, there's some issues, and there just is. There just is. And so how is Nick Nurse with the currently constructed roster going to minimize those issues just simply and solely on the fact that he can mix and match the rotations as he sees fit? So that's my biggest question, what's he going to do with the rotations? All right. Anything else Nick Nurse-wise as we're 42 days away from the season?
You know what? If he's going to do Reed and Embiid, that rhymes, we should do Paul Reed, Mo Bamba, and Joel Embiid for one. Just for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. I would just love to see how that works. I would love to see who plays alongside them. I would love to see... I think that would be an interesting experiment. And you know what? If Nick Nurse is going to try Reed and Embiid, why not Mo Bamba, too? Just throw him in there. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. Throw Paul Reed at the 3.
Sure.
Throw PJ Tucker at the 2.
Great idea.
And then Patrick Beverly leading that offense. Dude. What? I mean, that's a defensive gem, though.
In a good and bad way.
It is. Oh my goodness, the perfect storm. All right, cautiously optimistic, episode 105, and we're a month and a half out from the Sixers start of the season. We hope that you'll continue to join with us on Planet 76 as more coming toward the end of the off season with some season preview, full length episodes and everything like that. So make sure you tune in as we approach October 26th and the tip off in Milwaukee. We'll see you next time on Planet 76. If you are a Philadelphia 76ers fan, this is the podcast for you. Planet 76, a weekly podcast covering all things Philadelphia 76ers. We'll see you next time.